students, up till now in this particular course we have discussed Unit 1 and Unit 2, and in the last session that we had a test which was basically conducted through Google Classroom, and you were basically given a crossword which you had to solve using the various clues which were given. There were 15 clues which were given, and you had to find out the term which corresponded to the given clues. No student has been able to score 15 out of 15. However, some of the students have scored well. Let us first of all discuss the crossword that was given to you, and let me take you to the actual link which was there, which was probably shared with you as well. So let us try and solve this particular crossword. We will start with across. Across, I hope you know that it means from left to right or from right to left. So the second number as far as across is concerned is using positive or negative spin in a communication campaign. So whenever you are reading these kind of sentences which you have got where there are some brackets also within the sentence, what you have to do is you read without the brackets first, so using positive or negative spin in a communication campaign, and then you understand what the brackets mean by looking at the word which precedes the brackets. So positive means here we are basically talking about positive benefits of use, and negative means losses due to non-use, right? So using positive spin or a negative spin in a communication campaign, I hope you remember our example, is known as framing. So this was how you decide whether you want to talk about the positive aspects of using your product, the positive things that will emerge from using the product, or the things that the customer would lose out on if he does not use your product, right? Now, Amul and Nirma Girl and Maharaja of Air India. I hope you might have seen Amul Girl and the Nirma Girl which appears on their packaging. And the Maharaja is basically shown along with the air carrier Air India. They are basically called mascots, right? Now, what is the use of having a mascot? One important use is it makes it easier for those who are not literate enough, those customers who are not literate enough, who are not educated enough, to identify a particular brand. So they identify the particular brand by, since they cannot read and write, so they remember a particular brand by remembering the mascot that that particular brand has been using, right? So as far as Amul and Nirma Girl and Maharaja of Air India are concerned, they are all mascots. Now what do we mean by USP? Point number 6. P is what in USP? USP, I have talked about what USP is: unique selling proposition and not preposition. Preposition is a part of speech so these are examples of preposition, but P stands for proposition. Let me write it down here. Proposition. So this is what unique selling proposition is. Now what do we mean by unique selling proposition? One unique thing which differentiates you from your rivals in the market and which gives a reason for the customer to buy your product is called your unique selling proposition. I have given examples of how Maruti has a very, very extensive dealership network, and that is one USP that they have, right? Then let's talk about point number 8. Movie reviews appearing in a newspaper is what kind of a channel? See, movie reviewers, they are neutral parties. They do not get paid by the movie producers, and they are experts in their own field. That is why they go watch a movie and then they let the readers of the newspaper know as to what their opinion is about the movie. Based on what? Many of the readers of the newspaper, they decide to go and watch the movie. So these kind of movie reviewers, basically they are expert channels, right? They are not social channels because they are not your friends or relatives. They are also not advocate channels because they are not getting paid by the movie producers. So they are basically neutral parties. So they are basically expert channels. So let me write down expert here. Okay. Promotional expenditure is the highest in which stage of product life cycle? PLC, point number 10. Now I hope you remember that I had talked about how promotional expenditure is high both in introduction and the growth stage, and I had specifically said that the promotional expenditure in absolute terms is the highest in the growth stage, right? And that is what the answer here is. You have to mention growth here. So point number 10 is growth. However, if you want to find out the relative expenditure, which is overall expenditure divided by number of units sold, then you would find that the relative expenditure is higher in the introduction stage. But in absolute terms, the expenditure is highest in the growth stage. Is that making sense now? Right. So let me now move to the next point, which is there. Point number 12. This channel is most trustworthy among various personal channels. So we had talked about different types of personal channels. Which channel do you trust more? For example, if you are receiving information about a particular brand, you receive it from the advertisers, from the company itself. You receive it from independent neutral reviewers who use that particular product and then they decide whether or not to buy that product, right? And then you also receive this information from your friends or families or relatives. Now, whom are you going to trust the most? Naturally, you are going to trust your friends, your family members the most, and such channels are known as social channels, right? So that was the answer to point number 12. Now point number 13, the second A in IDA stands for. We have talked about 4 different models in unit 2. One of them was IDA, and IDA basically stands for attention, interest, desire and action. So you first attract the customer's prospect's attention, and then you make him interested in your product, then you make him desire your product, look to buy your product, and then you make him act. So the second A in IDA stands for action, right? And I'm sorry, I actually put it I put it at the wrong place. It should have been put here, action. So this is correct now. So the green ones are the ones which I have attempted correctly. Now let us now come back to point number 14. Buy one get one is an example of. So I had talked about 5 different elements in the promotion mix or the communication mix. One of them was sales promotion, and I had given you examples of what kind of sales promotion tools we have. Buy one get one is one of the examples. Then we have discounts, we have got free gifts, we have got lucky draw. So they are all examples of sales promotion. So the answer here in point number 14th is SALES, sales promotion. I hope you also remember that sales promotion then can further be divided into consumer promotion, which are focused on the final customer, and the trade promotion, which are basically meant for the intermediaries, the wholesalers or the dealers, right? So with this we have completed the across part. Now we are moving to the down part, right? Strongly agree and disagree response categories are found in which scale? I hope you remember that you have already read about this in semester 4th, wherein we talked about these scales in research methodology. So I hope you remember that these kind of response categories are generally found in Likert scale. So let me write down Likert here. Correct? Now, I like Alia Bhatt is what component of attitude? So you have got an attitude towards Alia Bhatt, and you are saying that you also like her. Now this is related to emotions, emotional component of the attitude or the affective component of the attitude. I hope you remember that attitude basically has 3 components, and I have given you an acronym for these 3 components: A, B, C: affective, behavioral and cognitive. So when you say that you like somebody, you are basically referring to the emotional or the affective component. So let me write down affective here. Affect is different from EFFECT, right? So affective is basically related to emotions. So that is why we are writing down affective here. Fine. Now free career guidance if you do BBA from Pithoragarh is what kind of appeal? I hope you remember that there were three different types of appeal that we had talked about: the rational, the emotional appeal, and the moral appeal. Emotion basically appeals to your emotions: fear, joy, happiness, togetherness. So these are different types of emotions. But rational appeal talks about the benefits of a particular product or the attributes of a particular product. So basically, when we are saying that you would get free career guidance if you do BBA from Pithoragarh, so basically what we are talking about is we are talking about the benefits which you will have if you do your BBA from Pithoragarh, and that is basically an example of rational appeal. So let me write down rational in point number 4, right? Rational. Now let's move to point number 6. Which element of communication mix does not cost anything? I hope you remember I had given you an idea about how whenever a particular movie is about to get released, there are news items which emerge in various magazines and newspapers about an affair between the lead actor and the actress. And I have told you that this basically is publicity. Publicity is what you get free of cost. So publicity is the only element in the communication mix which is absolutely free of cost. The marketer, the advertiser, they don't have to spend anything to get publicity, right? So point number 6, the answer is publicity. So let me write it down. Just a moment. Publicity. Fine. Part of eye which expands when one is excited. This question is basically from the attitude measurement topic, wherein I talked about pupilometers. Pupilometers are used to measure the change in the size of the pupil, which is part of the human eye, right? And I had told you that an expanding pupil means interest. So if you are interested in something, the pupil expands. And so we can say that if a particular customer looks at our ad and his pupil expands, we can be reasonably sure that he finds our advertisement interesting. So the part of eye which expands when one is excited is pupil. So let me write it down here. Pupil. One who may buy a product in future, who may buy your product in future. And I told you that customers are those who have already bought your product, and prospects are those who may buy your product in future, who are very likely to buy your product in future. But until unless they have bought your product, you cannot call them your customers. So you have to be very, very careful about using prospects and customers. You cannot use them interchangeably. So the answer here is prospect, and I'm writing it down here. Done. Now I'm moving on to the last one, I guess. Rival ads cause in communication process. I hope you remember the communication model that we discussed, and that was an extension of what you have read in business communication, the business communication model that you have studied there. And I had told you that the rival ads basically will do what? They will make it difficult for your ad to get registered in the mind of the customer. It will be difficult for your ad to attract the attention of the customer if there are so many competing ads also that the customer is getting exposed to. So rival ads basically, they cause noise in the communication process. I hope you remember, noise is something that mars the effectiveness of the communication process, and the same thing happens here. If you are the only advertiser who is able to expose his target audience to his ad, then you would be very effective. But since there are so many other rivals in the market, you are not as effective. So the answer here is noise. With this, we have solved the crossword. Now let me take you to the results page. So I have tabulated the result, and I have deliberately done this so that you can understand as to how much you are scoring, and you can also understand as to how much you are likely to score in the final internal assessments, right? So you please have a look at this particular cell. It talks about the total marks which you are going to score out of 15, which comprises of the 5 test, unit wise test, and then there would be a project of 5 marks, and then there would be a total of 30 marks which will include your internal exam marks as well. Now let us talk about the results as far as test 2 is concerned. You can see here the results. The best performance was by Himanshu Joshi, who scored 14 out of 15, and then we have Tanuja Rana, who after having scored a low 3 out of 10 in the first test, now she has again scored 13 out of 15. And then we have got some laggards as well, and then we have got Kamal Kapdi also, who has been absent. So good performance by Himanshu Joshi, Tanuja Rana, and apart from Kamal and Sumit, all those who are scoring more than 6, they have not been very good performers. Their performance can be termed as average, right? Please also keep looking at this particular column which shows what is your overall score out of 15 and what is your overall score out of 30. So please don't come complaining to me, Kamal, you are still on 0, whereas students like Himanshu Joshi, they have already moved to 4, the maximum that they could have scored by now, 4 out of 4, while Kamal is still at 0. So this is the kind of difference which has started emerging in just 2 tests, right? So you can look at what would be the difference, you can predict what would be the difference by the time we are through with the semester and we have completed the syllabus, right? So thank you very much for your time. I have taken the liberty to deviate from the lecture plan which has been shared with you. Again, in unit 2 also we deviated and we took 5 lectures for marketing communication process. Again, I'll be deviating a little, and this deviation would again be highlighted also in the modified lecture plan that we will be sharing with you very soon. Fine. So thank you very much for your time. In the next session that we will have, we will be starting unit 3. Thank you very much.